Welcome inside the dugout, powered by CubaDugout.com, your source for discovering Cuban baseball. We are 60 years into Cuba's post-revolution baseball and 25 years into Cuba's baseball revolution. The first cohort of Cubans arriving in MLB was in the mid-1990s. This was often pitchers, and they risked it all to get on American shores. Rene, Arocha, and Ariel Prieto were the first trailblazers. The half-brothers Hernandez, the first to find big success, helping the Marlins and Yankees to World Series glory in 1997 and 1998 respectively. Let's explore Cuba's pitching today with an analysis of Granma's Lazaro Blanco. Since Levon and El Duque, Cuban bats have been the big difference makers. Jose Hernandez is a tragic case of what if, taken way too soon. Even in his short time on Earth in an MLB, he flashed brilliance the likes we haven't seen out of Cuban hurdlers in some time, if ever. Hernandez is often left off best Cuban pitcher lists because he developed in the States. He never played in the National Series or for the Cuban national team. The Cuban debate typically holds players who played extensively in Cuba or for Cuba in higher regard. Few debate that Major League success holds more credence in overall career accolades. The Cuban missile, Arocha Chapman, is likely the best Cuban pitcher of the past decade plus. Chapman's record 106.7 mile/hour fastball is at least a standard deviation away from MLB standard. His heater is likely +3 standard deviations from what we see in Cuba. Chapman was miscast as a starter in Cuba. His stats didn't jump out at you from his time with Jovine. Arocha has been a top closer in MLB, but loses some points for some high-profile failures in key spots. Many have anointed him as the best hurler in the 2010s. That might not be as concrete as it first appears, though. Granma's Lazaro Blanco might be the best Cuban pitcher of the 2010s, or at least the most important. I'm not making the argument that Blanco was ever of MLB caliber, though. I will, as most always, put more weight on accomplishments in the highest league in the world. However, if you're ignoring the accomplishments of players such as Blanco, who have performed in the world's top non-MLB leagues, you're missing a great game. Blanco has been a stalwart with Granma and a bit of a nomad over the past few years. He has logged rubber-armed innings wherever they are needed. Like many pitchers, Blanco figured out how to pitch as he matured. He turned the corner at 27, which is when most athletes enter their prime. Most pitchers don't learn on the fly against top competition, though. Lazaro debuted at 18 for Granma in the Cuban National Series. Early on, you wouldn't have been wrong to question why the Alazanes were giving him so many opportunities. You also might not have predicted he would toe the rubber in championship clinchers or for Cuba in international competitions. Lazaro Blanco is listed at 6'3" and 200 pounds. That weight estimate might be light. On the mound, he appears larger, and perhaps that stature contributed to his early struggles. Was he trying to be a thrower and not a pitcher? Blanco has learned how to work with his still above average by Cuban standard 88 mile/hour fastball. The reality is his success comes in pitching to contact, mixing in sliders in the 78 to 84 mile/hour range. At least by the eye test, he never throws a pitch that looks straight. Fastball velocities are on the rise in baseball everywhere, but it strikes me as ironic that the island that produced the record-breaking fastball of Arocha Chapman lags in speed overall. Increasingly, Cuban pitchers feel their best chance for success is to get out of Cuba and to work with pitching experts on other shores. Increasingly, Cuban pitchers feel their best chance for success is to get out of Cuba and to work with pitching experts on other shores to increase their fastball velocity. Perhaps Blanco would have been better off if this path had been acceptable during his time on the rise. There is a romantic throwback feel to his approach. Blanco has become the de facto ace for Cuba, which might make him more the winner of the war of attrition than a true pitching star. That isn't his fault, and his dedication to his craft and country can't be denied. Players in the Cuban National Series are deemed amateur, but by Cuban standard are paid more than average. The obvious riches of MLB contracts make the perks players receive seem a pittance. This also lags the increasing salaries for players being allowed to sign in Japan and return to Cuba. Blanco and other veteran Cuban pitchers have supplemented their earnings by playing in professional leagues in Canada, Nicaragua, Panama, and Mexico. This should be lauded, as it feels like pitching has become a 365-day-a-year endeavor in certain seasons. On top of this, he is always available for Cuba in the World Baseball Classic, Caribbean Series, and Pan Am Games. Blanco, in 2020, shuttled back and forth between Granma and Nicaragua and returned in time for the disjointed but ongoing Cuban National Series playoffs. Going deep in his 2 wins is the Alazanes advance past Industriales in 5 games in round 1, and most recently taking game 1 of the semifinal against Pinar del Rio. Granma as the number 2 seed and Blanco as the number 1 pitcher might be the favorites to take their 3rd Cuban National Series title. That is a lot of words to make a case that a pitcher with a pedestrian career strikeout to walk ratio of 751 to 596 is the best hurler from his country, especially when increasing players are having an impact in MLB and Japan. However, if you've been following baseball in Cuba, nobody has logged more important innings in the National Series and for the national team, as well as in myriad professional leagues. Maybe he is or isn't the most important pitcher. Maybe he is or isn't the best Cuban pitcher of the past decade, but at the very least, Lazaro Blanco is Grandma's boy. As always, subscribe here on YouTube, smash the like button like a hanging slider, or share this video.